Please welcome Dr. Choi from the Korean Institute for Martial Arts in Amsterdam. He will provide a demonstration of Korean swordsmanship. Meine Damen und Herren, bitte begrüßen Sie Dr. Choi vom Korean Institute for Martial Arts in Amsterdam. Er wird uns die koreanische Schwertkunst nahebringen. Darf ich um einen großen Applaus bitten?
Yeah, nice to meet you. I'm going to introduce some Korean martial arts. Probably most people here already knew about the Korean martial art, some type. Have you ever heard of Korean martial arts?
Taekwondo.
Yeah, Taekwondo or Hapkido or other Korean martial arts nowadays popular in the West. Today, I'm going to introduce some other style, mainly more ancient style, traditional. So there are some other weapons, and so briefly, this the martial arts I'm going to introduce is called Sibpalki. So Sibpalki means 18 arts or 18 skills. So it's developed from late 16th century. So there was a Japanese invasion. Here are some Japanese martial artists. 1592, Japanese invaded Korea. So it was a very famous war in Asian military history. So at that time, Korean martial arts system were more focused on cavalry arts and archery. So the enemies usually come from the north, Mongolians, just imagine, and the southern coastal area than Japanese pilots. But for this threat, the Koreans can deal with some distance archery or spear and some this kind of martial arts. But so relatively, swordsmanship are ignored. And then after this war, before that war, then Koreans could manage this external threats, invasions. But this Japanese invasions, it was totally different. Now Japanese had muskets. And then they have, traditionally they are very strong in swordsmanship. So before this musket, then the Koreans could manage it distance with the archery. So the Koreans are very famous in archery. But once Japanese adopted this new system, so they could use a musket in a distance, and then in a close combat, then they use swordsmanship. So it was one of the most so Korean government couldn't manage this situation, and then they started develop these short-range weapons. From that moment, and then first six martial arts is like a long multi-tip bamboo spear and shield, long spear and trident and this kind of things. And then later they added more, and then eventually it became 18 martial arts. And then still we practice this 18 martial arts. So I'm going to show some, not all of them, because I brought only some swords and the spear. And so I will show you some demonstration. And then I will continue some extra information. And first I will show you some sword techniques. And then I will show you the spear technique. So if you are interested, and just look carefully, and then later I will ask you some questions. So from there we continue. Okay, I will show you some sword then. what do you think of this spear? Did you find some interesting features? Is there anybody?
Yes, I found something. Oh, you?
Sorry, yeah.
Spear is very flexible and the red cloth catches the
Yes. Okay, 1 point. Yeah, that's true. And what else?
It looks a little Chinese too.
Chinese.
In the movie.
Yeah. Okay.
For me, it looked like it's not kind of dueling. It's for multiple opponents, battlefield, self-defense, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it could be
From
duels, but
different directions.
let's say like this. First of all, this spear is too short. Usually, like a 3.5 meters. So what we call spear, like a long spear, then 3.5 or 4 meters. My car is too small, so I couldn't bring. And another thing, so you mentioned some flexible and so actually traditional point of view, what I just showed then, usually it's prohibited to do like this. So what I just did is like they call it flowery method. Looks fancy, doesn't work like that. So just imagine like a long spear than 3.5 meters, so like almost double size. So that spear, then you cannot move this kind of movement. So the turning around and then twirling or those things are. So this is just for actually, of course, there are some common features, even long spear or this is a short spear. There are common features. So these days we practice with this short one. But if you look back the historical point of view, then the spear should be longer, and the method should be different. Okay, that is one thing I want to say now. And another thing, okay, now I have a spear. Let's take it as a very long one, and somebody has a sword. So second question, spear versus sword. Who is going to win? Sorry?
Most times spear.
Okay, yeah. Anybody else on the sword side? Yes, you're correct. So spear is called as a king of martial arts. It's traditionally, so in most cases, spear wins. And then, but sometimes the swords win. That can happen. It depends on how you are skillful. So in this situation, then martial arts theory, they developed how to cope with this kind of different situation. So I will give you some short impressions of how it. Will you help me?
Okay.
Okay. So now he has a sword. I have a spear. But you see, this is like a relatively short one. So now you can see the long size. And then, so for me, then I want to keep this distance. So if he wants to come in, then I keep this one. So this is my stretch distance because
I have advantages. It's a long weapon. So I don't want to let him come in. But once he comes in, so this situation, then actually I'm the same as a bear. Do you get my point? So if a swordsman against a spearman and spearman against swordsman, then one of the basic rules, spearman wants to keep distance. Swordsman wants to keep closer. So otherwise, there's only one way you can throw the sword to catch up the distance. But that is thing. Okay, so now I'm continuously here and then trying to prevent him from coming in. Okay, and then now change. So swordsman now keep trying to come close to him. So somehow you throw something, and then I could make it closer. Then I can attack him. So this situation, so we call it long weapon and short weapon. Long weapon, you should be able to use it, short range, and then short weapon, you should be able to use it in a long range. Okay, then, which means now this is short. How can I make it longer? Okay, that is one way. If instead of two hands, single hands, then I can make this distance here longer. And then another way.
Fast moving, throwing it.
Yeah. That's what we call footwork. So in here, and then some situation. And then one of the situation is usually what is one way, you open some show weak points and then let him try to, he thinks, oh, this is the last the timing, and then he throws somehow deep thrust. Yeah? So then I take that timing. Of course, it's dangerous. Otherwise, you could say, shit. You try. So that is one way, anyway. So here, so somehow you make an open, and then he comes thrust, then you go in, and then get closer. Okay. Okay, sword part now. So he's going to do like that. So you guard position, and then I'm this, and then somehow I thrust, and then now he's. Don't hit me, please. So this is what he's going to do. Then, swordsman. We know swordsman. How can make it a short weapon, applying in a long range. Now, it's a longer weapon. Long weapon. How to apply in a short range? Okay, that's one way. So here, first, now he close, come in. So I keep moving and then keep distance. When he's slow, then I can still use my footwork, but he's somehow at a certain moment he was very fast, so he was already in front of me. Then how? Yes. Yeah. So here, now he is faster, come in, okay? So like that. So that is two ways. You can make so it's all about the distance, how to deal with this distance against your opponent. So when his movement is a little bit slow, and then you can still manage it with your footwork, then you can move together. But at a certain moment, he was really too fast, then you have to use your hand technique. So make it shorter and then use. And the longer, so that is the way you use your long weapon in a short distance. Okay, thank you. Thank you. going to show twin sword, double sword. Thank you very much. This is just a short introduction of Korean martial arts. Sibpalki.